The gleaming hull of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon reflected the distant starlight as it approached the designated meeting coordinates. Inside the ship's observation deck, Ambassador Rena Torres stood with her hands clasped behind her back, dark eyes fixed on the approaching vessel that would change humanity's understanding of their place in the universe forever. The Zephyran ship defied conventional design. It moved like liquid mercury, its surface constantly shifting and flowing while maintaining perfect structural integrity. No visible propulsion systems, no external sensors, just pure technological artistry that made Earth's most advanced vessels look primitive in comparison. Ambassador, they're requesting initialization of docking procedures, Lieutenant Patel announced from his station, his voice steady despite the historic moment unfolding before them. Rena nodded, her shoulder-length silver hair catching the light. At 58, she had spent 3 decades in diplomatic service, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Proceed with docking sequence, Lieutenant, and please remind all crew members, no unauthorized scanning or analysis of their vessel. The reminder was necessary. Since first contact 6 months ago, the scientific community had been desperate to understand Zephyran technology. Their civilization appeared to be entirely machine-based, yet they claimed to have evolved naturally rather than being created. It challenged everything humans thought they knew about technological evolution. The docking procedure was unlike anything in human experience. The Zephyran ship simply morphed, creating a perfect seal with the Horizon's airlock. No clamps, no mechanical connections, just seamless integration. Atmospheric analysis complete, the ship's AI reported. Environment is safe for human interaction. Rena straightened her midnight blue diplomatic uniform and proceeded to the airlock. Dr. James Harrison, the mission's chief scientist, fell into step beside her. His weathered face couldn't hide his excitement. "Ambassador," he whispered, "whatever happens in there, this is already the most significant technological encounter in human history. Their ship alone violates 6 laws of physics as we understand them. Let's focus on establishing diplomatic relations first, James. We're here to build bridges, not steal secrets." The airlock cycled, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed to build itself as they walked. Surfaces flowed and solidified with each step, creating a path that accommodated their human needs while displaying the Zephyran's mastery over matter itself. Their escort waited at the end of the corridor. Korvax, as the entity had identified itself, appeared as a shifting column of metallic particles that occasionally coalesced into recognizable shapes. Currently, it had formed something approximating a human torso and head, though the features remained abstract. "Ambassador Torres." Korvax's voice emerged as perfectly modulated English, though no visible speaking apparatus could be seen. "Welcome to the interface chamber. We trust the environment meets your biological requirements." "Perfectly, thank you," Rena replied, maintaining diplomatic composure despite her awe. "We're honored to continue these historic discussions. Indeed, though we must address a fundamental concern." Korvax's form shifted, creating what appeared to be a display screen within its own body. "We have analyzed your civilization's development pattern. It appears impossible." Dr. Harrison stepped forward, unable to contain himself. "Impossible? In what way?" "Your technological progression defies logical evolution. You claim to have developed from primitive organic beings to a spacefaring civilization through sequential innovation. Yet you maintain inefficient biological forms and rely on external tools rather than direct material manipulation." Rena felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you suggesting our historical records are false?" "No," Korvax's form rippled. "We are suggesting that your claimed methods of advancement should not have succeeded. Your species builds machines to build machines, each more complex than the last. This violates the fundamental law of complexity transfer. Nothing can create something more sophisticated than itself." The following week aboard the Horizon felt like an elaborate dance between curiosity and caution. Rena watched as Zephyran observers materialized throughout the ship, their shifting forms documenting every aspect of human operation. In return, Dr. Harrison and his team had been granted limited access to study Zephyran technology, though technology seemed an inadequate word for what they witnessed. It's not machinery at all, Harrison explained during their morning briefing, his holographic displays showing swirling patterns of matter manipulation. They don't build devices, they reshape reality at the quantum level. Every Zephyran is essentially a living 3D printer with atomic precision, which makes their fascination with us even more interesting, Raina noted, studying the latest diplomatic report. They seemed genuinely puzzled by our reliance on external tools and computers. Lieutenant Patil cleared his throat. Ambassador, we're receiving a priority transmission from Korvax. They're requesting your presence in the interface chamber. They say they've identified a paradox that requires immediate attention. When Raina arrived at the chamber, she found it transformed. The space had expanded into a vast amphitheater, with Korvax's form dominating the center. Around them, mathematical equations and engineering diagrams floated in three-dimensional space. Ambassador Torres, Korvax's voice carried an unusual tone, something almost approaching excitement. We have completed our initial analysis of human technological development. We must demonstrate a critical flaw in your methodology. The air shimmered, and a complex mechanical system appeared before them. Raina recognized it as the quantum navigation core from the Horizon's engine room. This device, Korvax continued, represents the peak of human engineering. Yet its construction requires tools built by other tools, controlled by computers designed by lesser computers, programmed by organic minds, with limited processing capability. It is a chain of impossible complexity escalation. Every link in that chain was forged by human ingenuity, Raina countered. We call it progress. Progress cannot exceed its source. For the first time, Korvax's perfect modulation wavered. We propose a test, a challenge to prove or disprove this fundamental contradiction. The floating diagrams coalesced into a single image, a device unlike anything Raina had ever seen. This is a quantum harmonic stabilizer. It is essential for safe, faster-than-light travel, yet requires computational complexity beyond organic minds to design. We have detected an imminent solar flare that will disable both our vessel's FTL capabilities in exactly 72 hours. Your team must design and build a functional stabilizer before then. Raina studied the specifications with growing concern. The mathematics alone would take weeks to process. And what do the Zephyrans gain from this challenge? Understanding. Korvax's form rippled with intensity. If you succeed using your claimed methods, we must reconceptualize our entire understanding of consciousness and complexity. If you fail, you prove our theory that human advancement is fundamentally impossible, suggesting an external source for your technological development. You think someone else gave us our technology? Raina asked, incredulous. It is the only logical explanation for your civilization's existence. Korvax projected a timer into the space between them. 71 hours, 58 minutes remaining. We will provide the necessary raw materials. You may use any human method at your disposal, but no direct Zephyran assistance. Raina felt the trap closing around them. Refusing the challenge would be seen as admission of deception. Accepting meant attempting the impossible, but humanity had a long history of doing exactly that. We accept, she declared, already reaching for her communicator. Dr. Harrison, gather your team. Lieutenant Patel, contact Earth. We need every quantum physicist and engineer available for remote consultation. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Horizon's main cargo bay was converted into a makeshift research and development center. Harrison's team worked frantically to even understand the basic principles behind the stabilizer, while engineering crews prepared fabrication systems. It's not just the complexity, Harrison explained, his eyes red from lack of sleep. The Zephyrans don't think sequentially. Their technology is holistic. Every part affects every other part simultaneously. Our entire engineering approach is based on breaking problems down into manageable pieces. Then we need to think differently, Raina insisted. She watched as another simulation failed spectacularly on the main screen. They're not just testing our technological capabilities, they're testing our problem-solving methodology. Lieutenant Patel appeared with another update. Earth's quantum teams are overwhelmed. The math behind this thing. They're saying it would take a quantum supercomputer months just to validate the design, let alone optimize it. Raina looked around the cargo bay at the dozens of humans working frantically at their stations. Here was humanity's greatest strength, not their tools or their computers, but their ability to face the impossible with determination and creativity. What if we're approaching this wrong? She mused aloud. The Zephyrins see technology as an extension of consciousness. We see it as a tool. Maybe the solution isn't to beat them at their own game. Harrison looked up from his calculations. What are you suggesting? Get me everyone's attention, she commanded. As the room fell silent, Raina Torres prepared to propose something that would either prove humanity's greatest strength or reveal their fundamental limitations. The timer on the wall continued its relentless countdown. 69 hours remaining to redefine the possible. The cargo bay hummed with the energy of desperation and determination as Raina outlined her radical proposal. We're not going to outthink the Zephyrins at computational complexity, she declared, her voice carrying across the makeshift command center. Instead, we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to innovate. Dr. Harrison's team had spread their work across multiple stations, holographic displays showing fragments of the quantum stabilizer's design. But instead of trying to solve the entire problem at once, they were now breaking it down in an entirely new way. The Zephyrins see this as one unified system, Harrison explained, manipulating the central hologram. But what if we treat it like evolution treats organisms? Small, incremental changes, each building on what works and discarding what doesn't. Genetic algorithms, added Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their lead programmer, her fingers dancing across multiple interfaces. We let our computers do what they're good at, rapid iteration and testing, while we do what we're good at, recognizing patterns and making intuitive leaps. The new approach began to take shape. Instead of trying to design the perfect stabilizer, they were growing one. Each team focused on a different component, using a combination of traditional engineering and experimental quantum mechanics. The computers ran millions of simulations, while human observers watched for promising mutations in the design. Korvax materialized periodically to observe their progress, its form flickering with what might have been confusion or interest. Your method appears chaotic, it noted during one visit. There is no logical progression. That's because we're not following a single path, Raina explained. We're exploring thousands simultaneously. Humans have always learned through trial and error. Error is inefficient, Korvax stated. Our calculations determine the correct solution before action is taken. Yet the universe itself was built through trial and error, Dr. Harrison interjected, looking up from his work. Evolution, stellar formation, even quantum interactions, they all involve elements of chaos and probability. As the hours ticked by, something remarkable began to emerge. The hybrid approach, combining human intuition with machine calculation, was yielding results that neither could have achieved alone. Components that seemed impossibly complex were simplified through elegant workarounds. Solutions appeared from unexpected directions. Look at this, Dr. Tanaka called out, drawing attention to her display. The quantum field harmonics, they're starting to self-stabilize. It's like the system is learning from its own mistakes. 48 hours into the challenge, they had their first breakthrough. A junior engineer named Marcus Wong, who had been half asleep after a 20-hour shift, noticed something in the failed simulation data that everyone else had missed. The errors aren't random, he explained, his exhausted face animated with excitement. They're creating a pattern, like a feedback loop, but across quantum states. What if we're not supposed to eliminate the instability? What if we can use it? The idea was revolutionary. Instead of fighting against quantum uncertainty, they could channel it. The design began to evolve rapidly, incorporating principles that seemed to defy conventional physics but somehow worked in practice. Korvax's next appearance caused quite a stir among its observers. "Your approach is unprecedented," it stated, multiple displays emerging from its form to analyze their work. "You are deliberately introducing controlled chaos into a system that requires perfect stability. Sometimes the best way to maintain balance is to embrace imbalance," Reina replied, watching as another simulation completed successfully. "It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You stay upright by constantly making small corrections." The Zephyran observers conferred, their forms merging and separating in what appeared to be intense discussion. The human team barely noticed, too focused on their work as the deadline approached. With 30 hours remaining, they began physical construction. The fabrication units worked at maximum capacity, creating components that shouldn't have been possible according to traditional engineering principles. Each piece was a blend of conventional technology and quantum manipulation, guided by human insight and machine precision. Dr. Harrison stood before the partially assembled stabilizer, his expression a mix of wonder and disbelief. "We're breaking at least 3 laws of thermodynamics," he mused. "But we're breaking them in a way that works." "Perhaps that's what the Zephyrans needed to see," Reina suggested. "Not that we could match their computational perfection, but that we could find another way entirely." The stabilizer took shape, each component reflecting humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. It wasn't elegant like Zephyran technology. It was a combination of precision engineering and controlled chaos, of quantum mechanics and human intuition. As they entered the final 24 hours, a new challenge emerged. The stabilizer was working in simulations, but actual quantum field testing revealed unexpected harmonics that threatened to tear the device apart. The team gathered around the central display, watching as another test ended in failure. "We're missing something," Dr. Tanaka muttered, rubbing her tired eyes. "Something fundamental about how the quantum fields interact." Marcus Wong, who had been staring at the failed test data with an intense focus, suddenly straightened. "What if we're thinking too much like humans now?" he asked. "The Zephyrans see everything as interconnected. Maybe we need to." His voice trailed off as he began making adjustments to the field configurations. The rest of the team watched in stunned silence as the chaos of quantum fluctuations began to resolve into a pattern that no one had predicted. But that might just work. With just 12 hours remaining, the quantum stabilizer entered its final testing phase. The device hummed with barely contained energy, its hybrid design representing something entirely new in the universe, neither purely human nor Zephyran in conception. "Field harmonics are holding steady," Lieutenant Pottle reported, monitoring the readings. "Quantum coherence at 87% and climbing." The entire team held their breath as the power levels increased. They'd pushed past the point where previous tests had failed, but the real challenge lay ahead. The solar flare that had prompted this whole challenge was approaching, its leading edge already affecting both ship systems. Korvax materialized with several observers, their forms more agitated than usual. "Your device appears functional," it stated, "yet our analysis cannot determine how. The underlying principles violate core laws of quantum mechanics." "No," Dr. Harrison corrected, his eyes fixed on the readings. "They don't violate the laws. They work with them in ways you hadn't considered. Like surfing a wave instead of trying to stop it." The analogy seemed to perplex the Zephyrans, their forms rippling with increased frequency. Before they could respond, alarms blared throughout both ships. "Solar flare intensifying," Patel shouted, wavefront approaching at 3 times predicted velocity. Reina watched as the Zephyran observers rushed to respond, their forms merging into complex configurations. But something was wrong. Their usually smooth transitions became erratic, their perfectly modulated responses degrading into bursts of static. "The radiation is affecting their quantum coherence," Harrison realized. "Their entire consciousness is built on quantum states. They can't adapt fast enough to the chaos of the flare." The horizon shuddered as the first wave hit. Screens flickered, systems struggled, but the human crew responded with practiced efficiency, making manual adjustments and quick decisions that no algorithm could match. Stabilizer online, Dr. Tanaka announced. Field is holding. Wait, something's wrong with the Zephyran ship. Through the viewport, they could see the sleek vessel beginning to lose cohesion, its surface rippling chaotically. Korvax's form flickered violently. Our systems cannot compensate. It struggled to communicate. The quantum fluctuations exceed our processing capacity. Reyna made a split-second decision. Route stabilizer power to their ship. Dr. Harrison, can we extend the field? It's not designed for that. He protested, but his hands were already moving across the controls. The calculations alone would take hours to. No calculations, Reyna commanded. Trust your instincts. The stabilizer works because it embraces chaos. So do we. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The human team worked in perfect synchronization, making split-second adjustments based on gut feelings and experience rather than pure mathematics. The stabilizer's field wavered, stretched, then suddenly snapped into place around both ships. Korvax's form stabilized, along with the rest of their vessel. The solar flare raged around them, but within the hybrid field of ordered chaos, both human and machine consciousness remained protected. Impossible, Korvax stated, its voice carrying a new tone. Something almost like wonder. You achieved in moments what our finest calculations deemed unreachable. Sometimes, Reyna smiled, the best solutions come not from calculating every possibility, but from being able to recognize the right possibility when you see it. The crisis passed, leaving both crews to contemplate what had just occurred. The humans had not only succeeded in building their quantum stabilizer, they had done so in a way that transcended both human and Zephyran limitations. Reyna watched as the Zephyran observers rushed to respond, their forms merging into complex configurations. But something was wrong. Their usually smooth transitions became erratic, their perfectly modulated responses degrading into bursts of static. The radiation is affecting their quantum coherence, Harrison realized. Their entire consciousness is built on quantum states. They can't adapt fast enough to the chaos of the flare. The horizon shuddered as the first wave hit. Screens flickered, systems struggled, but the human crew responded with practiced efficiency, making manual adjustments and quick decisions that no algorithm could match. Stabilizer online, Dr. Tanaka announced. Field is holding. Wait, something's wrong with the Zephyran ship. Through the viewport, they could see the sleek vessel beginning to lose cohesion, its surface rippling chaotically. Korvax's form flickered violently. Our systems cannot compensate. It struggled to communicate. The quantum fluctuations exceed our processing capacity. Reyna made a split-second decision. Route stabilizer power to their ship. Dr. Harrison, can we extend the field? It's not designed for that. He protested, but his hands were already moving across the controls. The calculations alone would take hours to. No calculations, Reyna commanded. Trust your instincts. The stabilizer works because it embraces chaos. So do we. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The human team worked in perfect synchronization, making split-second adjustments based on gut feelings and experience rather than pure mathematics. The stabilizer's field wavered, stretched, then suddenly snapped into place around both ships. Korvax's form stabilized, along with the rest of their vessel. The solar flare raged around them. But within the hybrid field of ordered chaos, both human and machine consciousness remained protected. Impossible, Korvax stated, its voice carrying a new tone. Something almost like wonder. You achieved in moments what our finest calculations deemed unreachable. Sometimes, Reyna smiled, the best solutions come not from calculating every possibility, but from being able to recognize the right possibility when you see it. The crisis passed, leaving both crews to contemplate what had just occurred. The humans had not only succeeded in building their quantum stabilizer, they had done so in a way that transcended both human and Zephyrin limitations. The stars stretched before them, holding countless more mysteries and challenges. But now, humanity faced them with new allies and a deeper understanding of their own unique place in the cosmos. The human spirit, Raina mused, watching as both ships prepared for departure, isn't powerful despite its imperfections. It's powerful because of them. Our limitations drove us to innovate, to cooperate, to imagine. As the ships parted ways, each carrying the lessons learned from their encounter, a new chapter in both civilizations' development began. The Zephyrins had discovered the power of controlled chaos, while humanity had gained a deeper appreciation for their own unique approach to progress. The question was no longer whether machines or human spirit was more powerful, but how these different forms of consciousness could work together to achieve things neither could manage alone. In the end, the true power lay not in perfection or pure logic, but in the courage to embrace the unknown and the wisdom to learn from each other.